I'm joined now by Kenneth Doka. He's a professor of gerontology at the College of New Rochelle. He's also a senior consultant to the Hospice Foundation of America. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Doka, talk us through the healing process here. Where do these family members, even all those football fans who have gathered, where do they begin?
Well, healing is a strange word to use with grief. I wouldn't really describe it as a healing. I would describe it as a coping, adapting to the loss. We don't get over losses. We learn to live with them. We journey with our grief. I think this is going to be an extremely tough case on so many levels. You have young people, you have people who are well connected to large numbers of people. They're at least local celebrities. This has been a kind of I kept thinking of the Miracle on Ice. This has been a team, from what I've read, that's come from nowhere to make their first ever appearance in this kind of an event. So it's an out of order death. It's a sudden, it's a traumatic death. It's a multiple loss. It has so many complicating factors. This is going to be a very, very difficult situation of grieving. And when you have these kinds of community disasters, and you saw this a little bit in 9/11, there's a sense of the community coming together, right now in their grief. But then what often happens later on is the community tends to splinter. There are people with different stakes in this. So I think it's going to be a difficult process for this town, for this community, for the families.
And there were some survivors, at least for now, with this plane crash. There are also some people who were supposed to be on that flight that didn't get on for whatever reason. Talk to us about survivors' guilt and their path here.
Yeah, I think there is such a thing as survivor's guilt, where it comes out and people say, well, why wasn't I there? And it could have been me, and sometimes feeling guilty about it. There's also a kind of sometimes survivor growth, too, that can happen, which can be very significant, where survivors of these things sometimes ask themselves, well, if I survived, it had to be for a reason, maybe as a witness to the team. Think of the people who survived the Holocaust, who really made it their mission to find answers, to bring justice. So I think you find both kinds of reactions in survivors.
What about the social media impact nowadays? We've seen a lot of happy videos and photos that were posted online before that flight took off. This team was very excited to participate in this cup. How has social media changed the grieving process?
Well, I don't know that it has changed the grieving process as much as it simply has people still grieve. They still have to cope with the loss. This just becomes another tool with which to cope with it. And it's a way to communicate their grief. It's a way to find information about grief. It's a way to reach a larger community. But there are also downsides to the social media. The anonymity means that people can say, sometimes cruel things, and sometimes there's misinformation. But again, if you think about it, from the time of the pyramids on, really, we've always used our technology to deal with loss and grief, the finest of our technology, and certainly social media is no exception to that.
All right, Kenneth Doka, thank you for your insight. We appreciate you joining us.